I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Minakaims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
Hello, what's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast, powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. We'll talk about them later. I'm sure some of you are carrying over from our trade deadline episode with Gonzalez. We got rid of him. Now it's just me and Taylor, ready to talk some football. We're gonna break down we're gonna break down Patriots versus Titans. Patriots lose 20-17 in overtime in a loss to Tennessee on Sunday. Now sitting at 2-7, and the trade deadline is now over. And the Patriots didn't really do anything, Taylor. They got rid of Josh Uche for a 6th-round pick a couple days ago. They, according to Diana Rossini, were receiving calls on Devon Godshaw, Kedrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, and Kyle Duggar. Turns out they didn't trade any of them. So they're moving forward, going to continue to build this thing from the ground up, and we'll see where that ultimately goes. But like I said, there was a game on Sunday. So what we're going to do is look at some film, look at a couple different things from the Patriots' loss to the Titans, see what they can do, what they can improve, and go sort of, we're going to take it by storylines. So we're going to talk about the Patriots' run defense. We're going to talk about the Patriots' run offense. We're going to talk about Christian Gonzalez and his matchup against Calvin Ridley. We'll touch on some coaching stuff as far as, offensive line decisions going for 2, some play calling things around Drake Maye, and then we'll finish with some Drake Maye, some good, some bad from the rookie start on Sunday. But Taylor, before we get into it, I did not cover the game as much as I could have. Some family things going on, so I'm relying on you to tell us more so about Patriots Titans. So after watching the film, after checking it out, before we get into the nitty gritty, some overarching thoughts from this game after you looked at it a second time.
I mean, it was pretty similar to what we saw live. There weren't honestly a whole lot of surprises in the film. I'll say the run defense, I feel like when it comes to the run game, period, if you have like a handful of bad plays, it makes it seem like everything was terrible. Mm-hmm. When I went back and watched the run defense specifically, one thing I noticed was they gave up a few explosive runs. Most of those were actually at like Marte Mapu and Del Pettis in spots where we typically see Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers, which is like, 2 young players who aren't particularly, very big or physical. Like mentally, I think they play at times with a physical, kind of mentality, period, but they just don't have the size and power to back it up on a consistent basis. And that's kind of what you saw, especially with recognition. There were a couple times where Del Pettis took a while to realize what was going on. I think part of that is Dietrich Wise actually mentioned while speaking to reporters that they need to be better about recognizing formations. That doesn't just go for the safeties, it goes for everybody. That was one thing I noticed on the explosive runs. Like we talked about, a lot of the predictions we actually had came true because we talked about the toss play. Wasn't the same toss play as the Jets, but a lot of the issues the Patriots had were on runs that went to the outside and forced guys like defensive backs to make tackles. But then when things really got bad was in overtime. Now, they were giving up some yards throughout the game. And honestly, with the guys they have, I know I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just trying to be realistic. Daniel Ekuale is not meant to play as many snaps as he does. I like what we've seen from Jaquelin Roy. I don't really want to – I think he's actually been solid. But Christian Ellis, there were times where he vacated his gap. I think Jelani Tavai has been better overall. Keon White is showing signs of progress and has those flashes of, he's not just a situational pass rusher who's being forced to play on early downs. He can do it. It's just sometimes the technique and the awareness is a little bit off. But it's in other years, you had so many guys that were good, they kind of made up for when the other guy wasn't doing that well. Now I just don't think they have enough of those real gamers up front right now. Mm-hmm. And then they get exposed. But again, once they got to overtime was when they started getting gashed, run after run. Defensive linemen were getting moved, especially on the interior. Like I mentioned, there were 3 runs where Christian Ellis was in his gap, then went somewhere else, and the guy went exactly to the spot that he vacated. Mm-hmm. Inexperienced player on the defensive side of the ball. He played a little bit in Philly, but really in this system, it's still new to him, so I don't want to pile on. But that was really my biggest thing. Even looking back at their season-long stats, the run defense hasn't been terrible. Actually, when you look at the first 3 quarters of the game, they're average. They're I think they're right dead middle of the pack. When you get to the fourth quarter and overtime, that's when they get bottom 10 rankings. So you'd like them to be like they were last year, where they're the best run defense, and it's really not that much of a conversation. But, you got no Bentley, no Duggar, no Peppers, no Barmore. I'm sorry. those things matter. And, I think we're just seeing that. But when you don't have leads, when you are the team that's getting run on the third most in the NFL, two other teams have had more run defense snaps than the Patriots. We talk about it all the time. The run game is about body blows. If you're just getting punched in the stomach for 4 quarters straight, it's going to be real tough in overtime. I think it had 60 snaps going into that part of the game, which is why you could argue they probably should have gone for 2. I would have liked to see them do that.
Let's go. I can't wait to talk about that in the coaching then.
I'll save that one. But yeah, my biggest thing that kind of surprised me was the run defense wasn't horrendous.
Right.
They were inconsistent maybe for the game, although I think they did well for the most part, just a few chunks. But then it just got real bad as the game went on. And again, outside of regulation.
Do we have specific film on the run D for today?
We don't, but I do.
Okay,
have
that's fine.
Twitter, so I can still pull them up. That's not
no, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure before we move on because that was sort of one of our things. But I like that was I guess the way we can touch on the run defense then is just look, Pollard goes for 28 carries, 128 yards, four and a half, just over 4.5 a carry. He's on schedule. Team as a whole, 4.3 yards per carry, 39 for 167 yards. So they're just not getting it done against the run. And there is obviously other ways to look at it where, you go through overtime and it gets a lot worse in overtime. And again, he kind of just, it wasn't so much, I don't think explosive runs as much as it was kind of just chunk by chunk.
The body blows. It's like 4 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, but it's like, well, you're on schedule. And at this point in the game, if you're a good running offense and you're in overtime, you should just run the ball because most defenses are going to be tired just naturally by the flow of the game. And also, I want to tip my hat to Tony Pollard. I don't think I gave him enough credit. That dude had some runs where there was one jump cut he had where he made Devon Gottschall slip. Like, it was really good. There were also times you'll see here where he'll kind of look like he's going in one gap. The defensive lineman is a 2-gapper, tries to get in that gap, and he makes a really nice cut like you saw right there to exploit a gap. So you got to tip your cap to Pollard, and that's the tough part about playing really good running backs when you don't have those playmakers on the defensive line and in the defensive front because you don't have enough guys to make up for the fact that this guy's talented and is going to make some guys miss.
Again, I know this isn't necessarily run defense specific, but we mentioned the injuries and guys like Kyle Duggar being out. Obviously, Jabril Peppers not with the team. They haven't been great against tight ends anyway, but this year. But then they let the tight ends go for 6 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown and allow them to be productive against this as well. So the injuries are going to continue to kill them. This is still run D. Okay.
Yeah.
It's that toss
like all the times that they were. So in kind of just to break this down very quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
When they're in their nickel defense against teams that use a lot of RPOs, they use what's called a tight front, which is basically their way of keeping we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But 2 linebackers at the second level, and it looks like they're 5 down front, but as you can see, instead of a linebacker, they'll put a safety. And when you have that safety and it's Duggar or Peppers, you're saying, okay, if it's a screen, they're going to blow it up. And if it's a run, they're going to recognize it quickly and probably bring it down just as quickly. But it's not the same when it's Mapu and Del Pettis because they haven't seen this stuff quite as often, so it's going to be tougher. And they just don't have the physicality to take on those blocks where it's like, I'm going to get in your chest and shed you. They typically try to get under or around blocks, and that sometimes puts them in some difficult positions.
Yeah, for sure. Patriots allow 167 yards on the ground for 39 carries. Like you said, on schedule, 4.3 yards a carry. That's can't allow teams to do that because then they're just going to get first downs on you, and you go into overtime, you get gashed, you end up losing the game. Let's go to that running offense now from the Patriots. That look outside of Drake Maye, who has 8 carries for 95 yards on 0 designed runs. They were abysmal. 15 yards on 12 carries, getting just over 1 yard per carry, Taylor, outside of Drake Maye. Gerard Mayo didn't want to talk too much about it. He really only said it starts up front. Ben Brown, Layden Robinson, not great in this game. Layden Robinson actually gets benched for Mike Onwenu. We're going to talk more about that in the coaching decisions with the offensive line and matching up against Jeffrey Simmons inside and all that. But Taylor, not quickly, go on a diatribe. What do you got on this run offense? What the heck is wrong with it? Because, man, 1.25 yards per carry outside of quarterbacks on non-designed runs is chaos. Like, you got to be better. You got to run the football. This is what Gerard Mayo talked about, being a soft football team. When you can't run the football, this is not tough football.
It's not. And I treated like it was a whole lot of bad. The Patriots, since Drake Maye became the starter, their running backs have earned 123% of their yards after contact. No other team even hit 90%. No other team has hit 90% since then. That's egregious. Now, every once in a while, it feels like a back probably didn't hit the right hole. Like with Gibson, that's been an issue sometimes. Sometimes Jermichael Hasty can get dancy. There are even a couple times where I know like Ramondre tried to bounce one run to the left on a play where Vidarian Lowe and Michael Jordan had trouble passing something off, but he had a wide open lane to the right where it looked like they were trying to cut back to. But with Ramondre, it's kind of like a quarterback with, a veteran where you're saying most of the time, I'm going to assume you did the right thing, unless it's just so bad that it's undeniable. But yeah, the offensive line, it's not even just one problem. Like one of the things that I really liked was at some points this year, the left side was pretty good at outside zone. The right, honestly, outside zone has been their best concept. And I think a lot of that is because it's been the thing they've repped the most. But you're getting to the point now where like Ben Brown is starting to get exposed a little bit more. Michael Jordan, I feel like, has really taken a step back. Like he and Vidarian Lowe are not passing things off well. Their combo blocks aren't very effective. Mike and Wendy wound up on the ground a couple times. One time, I think he got tripped up. But even him, like what you expect from him, it wasn't as consistent as you like. Did open some room, but then like it's again, this is why it's everything, because the combos aren't very good. You have individual losses. For the umpteenth week in a row, you've got second level defenders that aren't getting blocked, so running backs can't even get a head of steam going. And it's a frustrating conversation. I was like, literally, I'm sitting in the airport watching this with Liz, and I put my laptop down, and I'm just like, it's all so bad. It's not like, oh, just plug this guy in. And actually, I think the reason that Layden Robinson started was because they wanted to run the ball, because we know that he's been one of the few areas where he has had success is as a run blocker next to Nwenu. But whether it's not playing a ton, it's the injuries or whatever, he's regressed. And now it got to the point where almost every rep, it looked like he wasn't doing something right, whether he was oversetting, his hands weren't in the right place. It looked like sometimes he wasn't blocking the right person at the second level. Not totally sure on that one, but I know there was one play where he looked surprised and kind of looked around and didn't end up blocking anybody. So I don't know if they need more window dressing, which is something they don't really have a ton of. I know when those fullback sets, they try to have some misdirection where they'll look like they're tossing and wind back, but it's not really surprising anybody. So I don't know if maybe they need to do things schematically to take something off the run game. But at the end of the day, the offensive line does need to block, and they're not doing that. And I don't know how you fix it when it's a line that's full of guys who would be practice squatters or like true backups, not even spot starters, but backups on most teams. And you're relying on all these inexperienced players without the talent to be going up against guys like Jeffrey Simmons and Quinnen Williams and all these talented edge or defensive linemen that they do face. So yeah, I mean, you see it. It's not good. It's poor execution, and I don't know what the solution is at this point, unless maybe Caden Wallace and Cole Strange get back in the lineup, because it's just nothing about this run game gives me hope. There were times where I had some, but they were inconsistent. Now I'm at the point where I'm just going into games expecting them not to be able to run, which is a terrifying position to be in when you have a rookie quarterback and Alex Van Pelt, who's getting all this shit because he's running the ball too much. They actually, outside of the first quarter, are running the ball at a bottom 2 rate in the NFL. Like they're trying to get away from it, especially because they're in these deficits and everything. But you also don't want your quarterback to have to drop back 50 times a game, because that increases his risk of getting hit and exposes your offensive line even more. Like they're just in a tough spot, and there's really no way to get around it. I'd love to see some improvement, and maybe guys, the light bulb goes off. I'm just not confident that's going to happen.
That's kind of what it is here, Taylor. It's that light bulb moment for them where it's like all of a sudden maybe things just start to click and you start to run the ball better. But with all the changeover that happened, that's happened on the line, even since week 1 and 2, where they're actually running the ball pretty efficiently, really, like you said, too. And we had that chart up, I think, last week or the week before. Ever since they turned it over to Drake Maye, the rushing offense has just been abysmal. And it's not it's not obviously Drake Maye's fault. I mean, right now he's probably their best player. I will say definitively he's their best player on offense, and yet nothing's getting done. And so, look, it may be, and it's also, there's been some injuries, right? We talk about Caden Wallace, who could come back and maybe, play a decent or do a decent job at right tackle, maybe some left tackle, but I think they're going to keep Vidarian Lowe there. I think he's been okay. But then you have Cole Strange potentially can come back. But other than that, it's really everything just sort of starts to click, and maybe Scott Peters can get them back, all on the same page and running the football better. But it's going to start up front, and right now it's just not getting done. Again, they go for only 15 yards on 12 carries outside of Drake Maye. So
also got to say, Vidarian Lowe, I have to acknowledge, he also had a pretty bad mental error, it looked like, where he and Hunter end up blocking the same person. After the play, Hunter was looking at him like, what are you doing? And he had some losses where I wasn't sure if it was more on him or Michael Jordan necessarily, but like something wasn't right there. And as much as I've been, hyping Vidarian Lowe up,
been pro Lowe.
College, we're very pro Lowe, but more in pass pro.
Okay.
Because the run game has not been great for him the past 2 weeks, and I do have to acknowledge that and be as fair as possible.
100% you do, and it's a thing where I think some people haven't been fair to these guys, but at the same time, we're not sitting here talking about an all-star, an all-pro offensive line. It's replacement level guys who at times play really well. You talk about a City So, a Layden Robinson, a Vidarian Lowe. Ben Brown even has some flashes over the last couple weeks. But then he comes back to earth because that's just who he is. It's a guy who the Patriots were able to get essentially off the scrap heap, just like they do with, I think is it Tyrone Robinson or the guy they traded?
Tyrese Robinson.
Who
Robinson actually was a top 10 pass protecting guard in the preseason.
Okay.
The past 2 preseasons, huge caveat. He's a practice squad guy, another person you don't really want to have to play. But, honestly, relative to what you expect, their in-season acquisitions of linemen has been pretty solid. I know Zach Thomas was cut. Maybe they just that was one thing. I know people were saying, do you put Zach Thomas in the lineup? I just didn't like his strength. I didn't think functionally he was strong enough to really, especially hold up at guard or do anything that Michael Jordan wasn't already doing for you as someone who's had time in the system. So, it's just tough. They're in a really difficult position. I don't know if that turns into next year, like you just bring in a veteran, like, the Commanders did with Nick Allegretti, where you don't take the chance. You say, all right, maybe this guy is, a lower end starter, but we know that he can do it at the very least. But we'll see. It's frustrating because I don't have an answer, and I feel like I just keep talking myself in circles. But yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. They need to improve, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. I mean, things have to change up front. You get some guys healthy, make some acquisitions. But I mean, again, I keep saying it, but I harp on it. When you run for just over a yard per carry outside of your quarterback, who isn't running the football, or they're not designed runs, rather, it's him scrambling. That's not a good recipe to win football games. So we're going to get to a little bit of Christian Gonzalez and Calvin Ridley. We'll talk about some coaching stuff, and then we will end with Drake Maye. But before we do, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players, and you will have a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. So make sure you run your game all season long with us here on Prize Picks. You can use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive that bonus. It's guaranteed. So just plug in that code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play $5. Prize Picks has flex play. It means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect, allowing you to double your money even if all of your picks don't hit. Prize Picks also puts their members first. All withdrawals are safe, secure, and fast. When your picks hit, you get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. So do you think Jamar Chase is going to have more or less than 79.5 receiving yards? Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 1.5 touchdown passes? Do it on Prize Picks with us. Again, code CLNS to get $50 instantly after that first $5 lineup. CLNS for $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Taylor, let's talk about Gonzo. We talked about it in our trade deadline show. The Patriots have 2 guys, Drake Maye on offense and Christian Gonzalez on defense, who are essentially the cornerstones of this football team. Gonzalez shadows Calvin Ridley for, I believe, most of the game. Do I have that right? Again, I wasn't able to watch the entirety of it. But
I only noticed like a couple where he wasn't, but it looked like that was his guy.
Yeah, and in that matchup, allows Ridley to get 3 catches for 51 yards, no touchdowns. Ridley beat him a few times. Gonzo got him a few times. It was a heavyweight fight. He also had 2 pass breakups as well. So I think another good test for Christian Gonzalez. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. It's not always like even, Richard Sherman in his prime and Darrelle Revis in his prime. Like, you lose a rep here, you lose a rep there. But I thought overall Christian Gonzalez has another pretty good game against one of the NFL's better wide receivers. What did you think of the matchup for him against Calvin Ridley on Sunday?
I thought he was good. The only times he really gave up catches were on in-breakers, where sometimes I don't know if there was an underneath guy and he was supposed to have more help. Like when you're an outside corner and someone's running a dig on you and you're in zone coverage or off coverage, unless you literally sit on the route, it can be tough to affect those plays. That was really all I saw. Like he deflected a deep ball. He was tight in coverage for the most part. I don't have a ton to say about the matchup, honestly, because I thought like Calvin Ridley was fine. But I know like PFF had him as one of their lowest graded defensive players. And I have a ton of respect for PFF. I think it's very important to understand how their grades work. Because like, if you give up a chunk play, it may not be necessarily on you, but a lot of those times, if it is like a route over the middle and they just see a cornerback in the area, they're going to put it on him and not necessarily someone over the middle. That's just what it is. But it's one of those examples where it's like, you got to do your own research if you're going to look into PFF grades. Don't just go on that, because I think he got like a 53 or something, and he did not have a 53 performance. I thought he was fine.
No, I thought so too. And I think that from the reps that I was able to see, I saw you mentioned both of the pass breakups. One of them was, deeper down the sideline. The other, the play across the middle, right? Where that's really going to tank your PFF grade when you let him get there, catch the ball, and then run for however long. I think it was 20-ish yard gain. And so, you're sort of shoving him into the middle and trying to get some help on the coverage because you're just playing your role out there on the outside. And you're technically in coverage. Ridley goes, and then that's going to tank your grade. But no, I thought he was solid overall as well. So I did just want to hit on that because it was one of our, one of the things you're looking for. Obviously, Patriots, Calvin Ridley last year. That was, that potentially became a thing until it wasn't. And then Christian Gonzalez matching up on that number one guy. But 3 catches for 51 yards for Ridley on 6 targets, 2 of those pass breakups.
That impressive of a stat line. Like
I know it's not. It's really not. Ridley had some other gains, but they weren't against Christian Gonzalez. I would say overall Gonzo did his job against Ridley on Sunday for sure. So again, just wanted to hit on that. I do also want to hit on those coaching things before we dive in deeper to Drake Maye. First and foremost, it's the offensive line against Jeffrey Simmons up front. They start the left side per usual, Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown, and then they start Layden Robinson at right guard and they start Mike Onwenu at right tackle. It doesn't go well, so in the middle of the game, they bench Layden Robinson, they kick Onwenu inside, and they put Trey Jacobs back on the right tackle. I want to get your thoughts on that overall because we talked about Jeffrey Simmons being the game wrecker in this contest. He's probably Tennessee's best player, and they knew all week that they were going to have to deal with him. And what did they do? They played Layden Robinson, a rookie, on the inside. And then in the middle, when it was, shit was hitting the fan, it's like, oh, maybe we should put our best offensive lineman on him on the inside. So, maybe just start the game with that. I don't know. It sounds so silly, but I didn't understand it at all. I don't know if you have a different opinion. I don't know if you have the same opinion, Taylor, but I want to get your thoughts on that because it didn't make a lot of sense to me. They should have just started especially because you're toying with the offensive line again, right? The 8 offensive line combinations in 9 games now. Everybody from the last game was healthy. You could have moved right, or 2 games ago, you could have moved, or maybe it was last game. Anyway, you could have moved right into it, and instead you switch it up again and use a different combination. I didn't like it, but I want to get your thoughts on it too.
It wasn't even so much the continuity issue for me because I think Demontre was actually pretty solid overall. Again, this is all relative to what you expect from the player.
Right.
But at the same time, my bigger issue was I saw it in practice that it was Layden Robinson, Mike Onwenu, then it was Demontre Jacobs next to Onwenu. So I'm thinking, I don't know what this means. I don't want to necessarily report this because we know they go through all these funky combinations sometimes. It can be very difficult to understand why they have the patterns they have, especially it feels like the past few weeks or the month and a half that sometimes they're kind of random. But when I saw that, I remember I was like, I really hope they're not putting Layden Robinson in against Jeffrey Simmons when you spent all week talking about what a game wrecker he is. That sounds more like a Mike Onwenu kind of situation to me. But then when it happened, I'm thinking, okay, I guess they want to run the ball. And I have a feeling this was supposed to be a run-heavy plan because the Titans' defense is good, period. There wasn't any really great area for them to attack. As we saw, Drake Maye didn't have a whole lot of success going downfield. They forced him to throw underneath and beat them by scrambling and running the ball. Because and you'll see it in the film review, they did a great job getting depth in their zones. This is the best Jets defenses that we've seen where really you need to dink and dunk them because they're very well coached. They pass off routes brilliantly. You can tell how well prepared they are. I honestly kind of got jealous watching it. The Patriots, I'm not going to act like they don't really do those things. They definitely do. It's not as consistent though, and I think part of that is the coaching change and some roster shuffling and all that kind of thing. But the Titans are really good, and I would assume their plan going in was we cannot have Drake be the only thing that we do well in this game. And by putting Layden Robinson in, I guess their thinking was at least we can maybe run the ball better than if we had Nwenu and DeMontre Jacobs. I still don't like that reasoning, though. I'll be totally honest with you. I disagreed with it at the time. I didn't like it in the game when they made the change. I was like, yes, finally, because we love Layden. Like Layden he's great with us. You can tell he works hard. Coaches rave about him. We're rooting for him. Right. But I mean, he was getting worked by Jeffrey Simmons. It seemed like everything he was doing at some point was wrong when he was in the game. And I don't say that to he's Barry the guy. He's a rookie. Right. He was bad. They needed to make that switch. But yeah, long story short, I figure they just wanted a better ground attack, and that was the reason for putting Layton in. I still highly disagree with it because of the number of times he ended up having to block Jeffrey Simmons and was just completely overmatched.
All right, another thing on the coaching that I want to talk about is the decision to go for 2. And I want to go first here. Patriots obviously tie the game. They attempt to tie the game. Drake Maye makes that incredible play down at the goal line, running around for 12 seconds. Ridiculous. And we'll get into Maye.
Down too.
We're going to break it down because that kid, he's their best player on offense. He's their most important player on the entire team. And he goes down and he makes it 17-16. And look, I get that they were gassed. Like Drake Maye, he was asked about it. He was basically like, I was just trying to catch my breath. I wasn't even thinking about going for 2. But I also look at the situation where you only scored 17 points and you weren't able to go through that Tennessee defense all day and get points on the board. Yeah, your defense was, more well prepared, or not well prepared. Your defense was rested, right? They hadn't been on the field. So you have a healthy D, a ready to go defense against them in overtime if you tie it. But man, I just think that when you go down there and you can't score at will and you have an opportunity to win the game right then and there, you draw up your best 2-point play. Gerard mentioned the 2-point play against the Jaguars that didn't work, but they executed it aside from Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk just tripped, and I don't think they would call that same play, but you got to have 2-point plays ready. And I am in fully of the mindset when you are 2-7 or 2-6 and you can fall to 2-7, oh, well, right? You're down there, make the play. And if you don't, it's okay because you just saw what Drake Maye did. You still have all these, not all of these, but you still have him as a building block and you still have the confidence in that guy. And he showed you what he is, but I had no reason for them to take it to overtime and try and win it again because they were gashing you on the ground too. And that's exactly how they won it in overtime. So I'm of the mindset of go win it now. And everyone was talking about the Buccaneers game, Taylor, last night. I don't know if you watched it. Where
they should have gone for 2. That was stupid. That was actually very stupid.
I don't know if they should have gone for 2, though.
It's a Tom Brady dilemma. If you have a chance to beat Tom Brady, you beat Tom Brady. Don't do that playing scared bullshit. It makes me dude, I like giving coaches some benefit of the doubt. I try to see both sides just to be fair. I was saying the entire drive, go for 2. If you don't, they're going to make you pay. I don't care if you get the ball first. And then Mahomes gets it and walks down the field. And Kareem Hunt was killing. So this is different. So, okay, we'll compare the situations. Actually, the Patriots, these were some of the last drives. So in the second half, they allowed a field goal on a 14-play drive. Then it was 5 plays punt. 5 plays because the Patriots fumbled, touchdown. Okay, you put your defense in a tough spot. Still could have executed better. But then the last possession of regulation for the Patriots was a 3-and-out. They got forced to punt, and that was when Drake Maye drove the ball down the field. That's not the same as the Chiefs and Kareem Hunt ripping off 10-yard runs on you. That's not what was happening with the Patriots. It was those body blows where it's like, all right, if you want to commit to the run, whatever. I still would have liked them to go for 2 in that situation because I didn't like the idea of being able to run the ball for the Titans if they got the ball back, but also maybe Mason Rudolph makes a mistake. We saw they fumbled. So you were kind of waiting and hoping the Titans were going to make a mistake and give you an opportunity. But with the Chiefs, it was very different. One, it's Patrick Mahomes and you're actually getting killed on the ground and cannot stop it. 2 different situations, in my opinion, where the Patriots one, I think is somewhat debatable. Everyone knows when you play a Mahomes or a Josh Allen or Tom Brady, you need to stick the knife in them when you have a chance. It blows my mind that this is still happening. against these quarterbacks. Like oh my God, when I saw you tweet that, I was so mad. I actually put my phone down.
You should have chirped me.
I was traveling all day. I love Mike. Let me put the phone down. I was so mad.
That's okay. We're allowed to disagree. We agree way too much on this show, Taylor. So let's disagree here, because when I look at it, I'm like, okay, the Patriots are 2-6. They got nothing to lose. So go for 2 and win it. And if you lose, who cares? May still got you down there. You still have him in your back pocket, and you're going to be just fine. When you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-4, you just lose your 2 best receivers the last couple weeks. You're on the fringe of the playoffs. It's like, you can't just be, hey, well, we lost. Oh, well, let's be a little bit more conservative here. We got down here. We can, we're 4-4. Like,
going conservative against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And
so
especially Steve also. Like, I just don't get it.
I understand it's Patrick Mahomes, and kill him while he's down. Like, I do understand that concept. But if you then go and try and win the game and you lose, and you throw that game-winning drive or that game-tying drive away from Baker Mayfield because you got too aggressive, and now you're 4-5, and 2 weeks ago Baker Mayfield looked he was going to be the MVP, and now all of a sudden you're 4-5 because, well, you lose your 2 receivers, but also because you tried to go for 2 when you could have just saved yourself, get to overtime, and continue to give yourself a chance to win the football game and stay alive in the playoffs. So that's my thought on it. I still agree with it, but I get the
receivers. You wanted them to go all the way down the field rather than try to score 2 yards away from the goal line as a team with no receivers. It's not like they were running the ball that well either. Like, at least the Pats had Drake Maye, and you're thinking, okay, if they get the ball back, maybe Drake can make magic. And he almost did. If he puts more air on that ball, Drake Maye, they win that game.
Yep.
So again, like, I'm thinking these are different situations where Baker, like that, they were really having a hard time moving the ball.
No, they were.
I'm sorry I keep cutting you off, but like
I'm fine.
I'm kind
get it out. Be mad at me.
I'm not even mad at you. I'm mad at Todd Bowles because you knew he wasn't going to go for 2.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, we gave like a brief thought to it. Shut up, bro.
No,
I'm sorry. Like, get out of here with that bullshit.
Nope. All right. Well, we still disagree on that. That's okay. That's what this is for. But you mentioned the throw that May made, and we'll break it down a little bit more. We'll take the last sort of half hour of the show to do all the May stuff. But one more thing on the coaching. And it was going into the wind in overtime. And May mentioned the wind, that he was thrown into the wind, and then he kind of took it back on WEI. He was like, it was a mechanics thing. And I want to get into the mechanics of it because he did drift out of the pocket to the right, which we've talked about on the show many a times, and that might have sped him up a bit. But he was also throwing into the wind. And Drake Maye didn't answer to it. He said that the wind was changing, but I thought that was kind of an odd coaching thing where they had the ability and they said, no, let's throw into the wind and give them the wind at their backs. I don't know if you have many thoughts or ideas on this, and I haven't looked too much into it over the last couple of days, but my understanding is they were going into the wind in overtime. And I just think that having the opportunity to have it at your backs and not, I thought that was kind of strange.
I did too. And I know Mayo was saying like the wind was changing or whatever from the beginning of the game. And I'm like, Mayo, there are literally on top of
flags.
The field, there's flags.
Right.
You can see where the wind is going. So what are we talking about here? And I don't know. Maybe he just misspoke or whatever. And maybe like there was a change or something. I don't know. But if they knew they were throwing into the wind, I agree. That is an egregious mistake.
Yes, it is.
That's very, very bad. That's one where like I can't even look the other way. It's like that doesn't make any sense at all.
You have to be on top of that shit as a head coach. And you need to have somebody on top of that who is in your ear saying, no, this is the wind. We need this. We need this. Or we need to know this heading into overtime.
And that's where I was talking to Andre Weingarten, friend of the show. He was saying next year, I think like Drake Maye needs an assistant head coach with experience. If that's like Ron Rivera or whomever, I completely agree. Because he's going to take his lumps and make his mistakes, and he needs to learn. And that's part of being a young coach. Like, people keep wanting to say, oh, he's not prepared. Most coaches who've never been head coaches before aren't really prepared. There's so many things that come up. Bill Belichick has even said that, like, no coach every coach should have some advisor figure. Like, Bill had Ernie Adams. Like, it's not like Bill was doing everything on his own either. He was talking to Ernie constantly. Ernie's a big reason they won Super Bowls because he was influencing some of the decisions that Bill was making. So, and again, we need to keep reiterating and managing expectations where, like, the Patriots didn't have their pick of the litter when it came to putting a coaching staff together. They literally did the best they could with what they had. So hopefully maybe next year you find somebody who can be more of that advisor, you know, maybe above a McAdoo who I was like, hey, let's wait and see, because like Tom Coughlin has respect for him. He was dealt a pretty shitty hand when he was with the Giants, like wanted to go to Geno Smith, but couldn't because of the whole, Eli thing and all that. So, but now we know, like, clearly there's a lot of things that aren't really going right. I don't know. We also don't know where Ben McAdoo has helped him either. So, I want to be kind of fair, but yeah, at the end of the day, decisions like that, where you throw into the wind in overtime, when literally Belichick, there's the Peyton Manning game. Mayo was on the team when they had the punt into the wind or whatever, and he decided to win instead of getting the possession. Like, you were on that team. That's something I would hope you'd be more aware of. I understand his mind's going a million miles an hour, but it's like you should have time to think about that. So
that's something you got to be on top of.
It's what we think it was.
Yeah, no, we've given the coaches the benefit of the doubt, Drake Maye, a lot of times, because we've been reasonable in the fact that it's his first year and you're going to take your lumps. But that's one of those things where, like, man, you shouldn't have to take your lumps on a decision in overtime. That's something situational football wise, like, you should know and you should have something. So again, there may be more to it that we don't know, but on the surface, it looks like they had the football, they were throwing into the wind. May tried to go deep and make a play, and it got cut up there because of a poor coaching decision and not having your guys ready to pick where you want it to go in overtime. So not good. Maybe we'll learn more about it, and we'll hear a little bit more and see if there was, I guess, another layer to it. But as of right now, it looks like a bad decision, that something small that could have potentially cost them the game. So not good on Mayo at all there. Any more stuff on the coaching, or do you want to get right into Drake Maye here?
I think we're going to get into Drake Maye. I can't really think of anything.
Perfect. All right, let's do Maye. But before we do, let's talk about game time, because right now, if you're heading to Chicago this weekend for Pats versus Bears, you can get into Soldier Field for as little as $179 on the Game Time app. And the following weekend, Patriots are hosting the Los Angeles Rams at Foxborough's Gillette Stadium. And you can get into that one on the 17th for as little as $81 on the Game Time app. Game Time has the Game Time Picks feature as well. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have great deals. They have super deals. They have awesome deals, and they're right in there on the app for you to give you the best prices on all of these seats. You can look at your seat view on the app as well, so you can see exactly what you're going to be looking at on the field, on the ice, on the turf, any concert venues as well. You can see what it's going to look like right in the app. All-in pricing as well. It shows you the entire total up front with no surprise fees. That's always a pain in the butt when you go into a ticketing app. You think you're getting a good deal, and then all of a sudden there's all these fees. Game Time doesn't have it because they have the all-in pricing feature. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Taylor?
Game time.
It sure is game time. What else it is? It's time finally to break down Drake Maye. Patriots quarterback goes 29 of 41 for 206 yards in the air, throws that miraculous touchdown, also throws two interceptions, has 8 carries for 95 yards, 11.9 yards per rush on those. He also had the fumble on the strip sack. So definitely a roller coaster of a game for Maye. I think some more good than bad, but the turnovers may be a question mark. Obviously, we'll break them all down. 2 by Amani Hooker. The last one really decides the game in overtime. So what I'll do is basically hand it over to you, Taylor. We have some highlights. We have some lowlights from Maye on Sunday in Tennessee. So take us through it, and let's break down number 10.
Yes, sir. So as usual, we're going to start with all the good stuff with Drake Maye, the things that really stood out to me. There were a lot of plays to choose from, but really what I wanted to focus on was how he was able to use his mobility to basically keep the Patriots in this game at all. A lot of scrambles to choose from, narrowed it down to 4, not all necessarily scrambles, but really even plays where he was off platform. And as Patriots fans, a lot of people don't really expect that their quarterback is going to make something happen when his feet aren't set. Usually it's an absolute disaster. But with Drake Maye, we really were able to see his athleticism and what he can do with that talent. Here, we've got his 22-yard scramble on 3rd and 15. This is the kind of play we always talk about it, where with the Jacoby Brissett, no offense to him, these are the kind of plays you kind of assume are dead in the water just because he doesn't really have the skill set to extend them as much as he may need to. And then also like the torque, the elasticity in his arm, the strength, necessarily make throws if he has to do it off platform or run 22 yards when he needs a country mile on 3rd down. So let's get into this. with the route concept. So the Patriots are running, this is a pretty popular quarters beater that they like to run. It's actually very similar to the one that Drake Maye threw to Javon Baker in that Eagles preseason game, the deep ball that Javon Baker wasn't able to grab. So I'm pretty sure it's a verticals concept, but with options from the receivers based on the coverage they get. So as we can see, you're going to have at the bottom, off coverage. So this is going to turn into a curl. Demario Douglas is going to run a seam. Then you're going to have Hunter Henry sitting over the ball right here. Basically a decoy to suck up coverage, or if May just needs to get the ball out of his hand, that guy's an option. And then you have a corner post at the top from Kayshon Boutte. Now the Titans are, what they did a lot of this game was run cover 3 from 2 high shells, often with man on the backside if the Patriots showed them some type of 3 receiver set. So that's what you're going to get here. The safety to the field, the 3 receiver side is going to drop down, or cover 3 buzz if you play Madden. Then you're going to get the safety going into the deep middle and man coverage, as I said, on the backside. Now run the play a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-step drop from Drake Maye. Now he actually does have a couple of options here. Now Kendrick Bourne, we saw it last time. Maybe he comes back to the ball and is short. So, okay, I get maybe not want to throw to him. Also might have had an opportunity to Demario Douglas because he's already passed this seam defender. Yep. You got this cornerback trying to split these 2 guys. But with this linebacker occupied over the middle, there's an opportunity you could put some touch on this and Demario Douglas can catch it. But at the same time, it's hard to fault Drake Maye when you have all of this pocket to work with and a pretty clear lane. Drake Maye is going to trust his speed and athleticism to get him the first down marker, but also key block here from Hunter Henry. We spent the past few weeks talking about how Hunter's been so valuable on these scramble plays, getting open for Drake. Here, he's actually going to throw a key block that allows Drake Maye to get past that linebacker and keep enough speed that he can kind of drag this defender, get more than he needs on the 3rd down. All right, now we're going to see him actually throw on one of his scrambles. This is one of the best throws. I feel like every week we're saying, oh, this is the best throw we've seen from Drake Maye.
Nah, this one's ridiculous.
This one was freaking sick, bro. All right, so this is a look where the Patriots typically run some type of gap concept. Like when you see a receiver in what's called a sniffer position, where they're typically between either a tackle and a tight end or a tackle and a guard, it tells you that they're probably going to be trying to run from this look, but they're not. They're actually going to be running play action. Ramondre Stevenson is going to fake like he's running some type of downhill run to the right before blocking. Then to this side, you're basically just going to get a deep, I wasn't sure what exactly this was, but it looks like some type of stop route from Kayshon Boutte. Doesn't really matter. What we want to be focused on is Demario Douglas on this crossing pattern over the middle. And then Kendrick Bourne. This is interesting because the Patriots, when they used to run this with like Josh McDaniels, this was one of their go-to man beaters. They would typically have this receiver really just run a short route to occupy this defender and leave room back here. But he's actually going to run an out and up. And I'm not sure how intentional it is because the Titans are actually going to basically split this coverage where to the field side, we're going to, or not, yeah, it is the field side. You're going to get zone coverage, another cover 3. But it looks like they're playing man on Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne because Ramondre Stevenson is on the other side. We see usually a receiver and a running back are manned up. I think here it's Hunter Henry and KB, but Hunter Henry is going to block, which makes this kind of hard to read. But you're going to see as Kendrick Bourne gets into his route, he's actually going to face press coverage, which makes it harder to run an out and up. Typically, you want to run this against off coverage, have the defender bite up, and then you blow past him. And it's going to kind of create a harder throw for Drake Maye because this guy's able to peel off and get into the window. But right now, let's focus on Demario Douglas because he's running into a tough situation where the 2 hook defenders have pretty good leverage on this crossing route, especially knowing that this is man over here. They can drop under this and try to make sure that he doesn't get the ball. And Demario has to not only cut through these defenders, but Vidarian Lowe loses around the edge, and Drake Maye is going to get a little bit of edge heat here. And you're also going to get some heat in the inside. We're going to get the end zone angle for this for a better idea of what happens. But Demario Douglas isn't really in an ideal spot, right? You got this defender who's chasing him, but this underneath defender is kind of in a spot where you're saying, if he doesn't get depth, then I may be in a pretty good place. Drake Maye gets himself a nice soft edge because Hunter Henry's got the block. Ramondre Stevenson helps even more, gets Maye out of the pocket. and then is going to throw to a spot. Absolute beauty. Demario Douglas, great job tracking this ball over the defenders. And as you can see, not only the defender that was initially chasing him, but Kendrick Bourne's defender is also in the picture. But Drake Maye puts enough touch on this to hit Demario Douglas, who shows great concentration to not only make a juggling catch, but also get both feet in bounds. And then really cool moment between him and KJ Osborne, who's been very fun on the sidelines, getting his guys hyped up. So let's see the end zone angle for this play. Play fake, drop back. You got the edge heat right there. And then Sebastian Joseph Day, gets Mike and Winnie on the ground. So Drake Maye drifts to his right, drift. A little pump also. I'm curious why he does this, who he's trying to influence. You couldn't see it much on the other angle, but I think what he's trying to do is make sure this guy can't just make a beeline and get underneath the ball, because the pump gets him to open up. See this? And that makes him a little bit later versus if he's in this position, Maye throws and he basically sprints there. Instead, it makes him a little bit later. And then a great ball from Drake Maye, putting it over two defenders. And then again, Mario Douglas, great concentration to hold that one.
And I like Kendrick Bourne stopping his route too, so his defender doesn't run into it as much. I don't know how intentional that is, but him not just running to his spot and stopping off the sideline allows his guy to kind of wait a second and not just be running into the route as well.
Exactly. All right. Now, next play we got here. Curl to Kayshon Boutte. This was one of Drake Maye's best throws of the day that I don't think people were really talking about. This was a beauty, especially because he was off platform throwing against very tight coverage. So the concept we're going to get here, really, it's Drake Maye's only looking to the right side of the field, so that's what we're going to focus on. The primary route here, I think it might have actually been Demario Douglas, because as you can see, there's this linebacker in the middle, and it doesn't look like the Titans are playing man. So on this sit route for Demario Douglas, you're thinking, okay, maybe against a linebacker, that's a good matchup. But you also have the option of Kayshon Boutte, who looks like he's running a corner stop. Some people call it a swirl. I think that's what it is in the 49ers terminology. Then Ramondre Stevenson is going to chip before releasing into the flat. That's important because it's going to influence an underneath defender and potentially make for an easier opportunity to Kayshon Boutte. Coverage-wise on the back end, this is pretty straightforward cover 3 buzz from the Titans. You're going to get this safety dropping down over anything that's coming over underneath, and then pretty standard. But the trickier part here, and the Titans did this a few times, so the mug linebacker on the line of scrimmage would actually drop, and instead you would get the off-ball linebacker behind him or kind of stacked, blitzing on some type of line game, which you're going to see. He's going to penetrate right here to the right side of Ben Brown, and then you're going to see a loop from, I believe that's Jeffrey Simmons. So as you can see, that disruption right there is going to kind of create a lane for Jeffrey Simmons, who is now unblocked because the Patriots weren't able to pick this up well enough. Now he's whistling down the middle at Drake Maye. Now Drake's going to start to drift away, try to buy himself some more time, and now he's going to start to throw to Kayshon Boutte. Very little A for anticipation here. It's nothing crazy, but still throwing before his receiver is fully out of his break and putting this on a line. Kayshon Boutte, nice job coming back to the ball once he sees it's coming to him. And then again, you see the defender is right there. He's literally on his back. I'll show the end zone angle so we can get a little better appreciation for the ball placement from Drake Maye and also the catch from Kayshon Boutte. So once again, we got the twist inside. Jeffrey Simmons, I'm going to eat you for breakfast. No, you're not, because I'm Drake motherfucking Maye, and I'm putting this literally. Can't put this anywhere else because the defender's arm is right there. If this is inside at all, it's an incompletion. Again, good job by Kayshon Boutte with the strong hands to make this grab. Convert for the Patriots. Big play there. Well, we've all been waiting for,
let's have fun.
Buzzer-beating scramble touchdown. This was freaking insane. This one's going to take a little while to break down, but there was actually an opportunity to score earlier on the play and in structure, but also given the situation, I understand there's no time left. Drake may have been a little panicky.
Yeah, right.
But he still made it work. So, go off, young king. But what we're going to see here is essentially kind of a high-low slash spacing concept. So you're going to get the spacing with these two curl routes, and then you're going to get Hunter Henry on the back line on a dig. This is pretty common. Usually you want to put your back guys on that part of the field because you can throw a 50-50 ball up. He goes up, grabs it, and hopefully keeps his feet in bounds. But the guy that Drake Maye is going to look to first is Ramondre Stevenson. That's going to be tough because the coverage you're going to get to this side is essentially like, it looks to me like some kind of match quarters where this safety is going to end up taking Hunter Henry's route. But Ramondre Stevenson is kind of going to get stuck in a void between two defenders, and he's not going to be a really great option on the play. You're also going to get Sebastian Joseph Day dropping back to spy Drake and keep him from just running up the middle.
Yep.
So it's really only a 3-man rush from the Titans. Now, this one I went full speed because slow motion for the whole thing would have driven me crazy. And as you can see, this underneath defender is covering Ramondre Stevenson, and you can see Drake Maye's thinking of throwing to him, right?
Yep.
You can kind of see
He
starts tapping the ball. He's waiting to throw it, but he's like, that's not a good window. I don't want to throw that. And then he's looking at Kendrick Bourne. He's occupied too. But you do have Hunter Henry open in the back of the end zone. Now, if Drake Maye puts a little bit of touch on this, he hits him for a touchdown. But I think once he saw his first two options weren't there, he got a little skittish and was like, all right, I'm in play.
He's already in freestyle mode. You can see it in his drop already. He's kind of getting ready to move around. Yeah.
And you can see how antsy he is. Like,
yep.
Once those two are gone, he's like, all right, I got to do something. He kind of this is not ideal. He drifts into his tackle a little bit, then gets back to the middle of the pocket. He looks to the left where I think at this point he probably knows that this is off schedule. That's why I didn't show the other side. The route concepts didn't matter. He didn't look there when it was in schedule.
Right.
As you can see, there's really no options right now when he's looking. And run. Guys trying to get open. Drake tries to go a little bit to the right. And actually, Ramondre is open. I think maybe if he had thrown it right here, he could have converted this to the pylon. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, he threw to Kayshon Boutte on a similar play. I think it was either flagged or they picked it up. I couldn't remember. I can't remember right now. But I can see why maybe he didn't feel great about making that throw and was like, I'm just going to try to keep buying time. Maybe I get a space to run, what have you. Doesn't want to make that. But he's also got this edge rusher starting to bear down on him. And I think that's part of the equation as well. Not only is he making a pretty tough throw to a running back who'd have to catch us here at the sideline, but I think this Arden Key is also coming around and is going to force him to redirect. Steps up in the pocket. This was freaking sick. This was when we used slow motion, right? Actually, this is Arden Key. Jukes him. He ends up on the ground. Then he also has to juke
Vidarian's like, get out of the way.
And I know you can criticize Vidarian Lowe and Michael Jordan for not really doing a whole lot here. They're literally just trying not to get flagged. Right. They don't know what's happening. As an offensive lineman, this is a very scary position to be in. You're just like, I'll throw a block if I can, but I don't want to be the reason this play doesn't work. Right. Drake Maye, actually Vidarian, good awareness to make him miss. And then you got these two defenders who were actually initially covering Hunter Henry, who we'll touch on later. And another defender said, you know what? We're just going to trigger and try to hit the quarterback. That gets Drake Maye to turn around, look to the other side of the field. Nothing's open when he turns, but he's actually going to show great anticipation once Ramondre Stevenson starts breaking back against the grain. Great awareness from Stevenson as well. Lets this go before Stevenson's actually even open. He's like, I'm about to get hit. I just got to throw to a spot.
Give him a chance.
Hail Mary, full of grace. Please let this be a touchdown because we ain't got no time left. But it's okay because Ramondre Stevenson is an absolute baller, comes back to the ball, makes the contested catch for the buzzer-beating touchdown. Then, obviously, the Patriots convert on the field goal to send the game into overtime. Now, the end zone angle is where I want to highlight Hunter Henry because I thought, on Twitter, people were saying, why would he go out of bounds? Why can't he come back inside? Why did he let himself get pushed out? One, you're not really letting yourself get pushed out. It's just a tough position to be in during these scramble drills. But also, if you step out of bounds and it's not a foul that someone pushed you out, you can't touch the ball because then it's illegal touching. I believe that's the kind of penalty where it would have run out the clock, and I think the game might have been over. Not 100% sure on that, but still, Hunter Henry was not eligible on the play once he was out of bounds. So first, let's run it. Drake Maye going through his progressions. Oh, my God, no one's open. What do I do? Now, Hunter Henry, like we said, was open. He's trying to redirect because he knows he's running out of space. But when he tries to do that, the defender heads up play, pushes him out of bounds. Henry recognizes that and is like, all right, I just got to stay out of bounds. I don't want to confuse Drake. And you can actually see him throw his hands up when Drake looks at him and is like, no. Don't throw. I'm not an option. I don't want you to get flagged. And right before that happens, Drake Maye ends up scoring the touchdown there. Really smart heads-up play from the veteran Hunter Henry. But as we can see, man, Drake Maye had to put the game on his back because the run game was non-existent. The pass pro was inconsistent. Guys weren't getting open consistently. Kendrick Bourne was on the ground 2 or 3 times. Wasn't running his routes to the sticks consistently either, which was a weird mistake, it felt like, for a veteran receiver. But yeah, and actually we're going to touch on that in the next section. But Drake Maye's mobility is keeping the Patriots alive in these games. Like Jonathan Jones said, I believe it was yesterday, this team needs to find ways to win and finish in those situations. But everybody after the game was raving about Drake wanting to play for him, feeling like they always have a chance to win, which is not something you've heard about Patriots quarterbacks in the past. Finally got their guy, but obviously, You want to continue to try to develop and improve before this offseason comes up where you really start to try to actually weaponize the offense because hopefully free agents want to play with the young kid.
Yep, for sure. Two quick notes on that last play. Just one thing I will say is that I love how he keeps his eyes downfield the entire time. That allows him to stay on Ramondre and know where his guys are at any given time, and you see that he's about to break back. If he's not aware of where those guys are, he's not throwing that ball with anticipation. He's probably just going to end up getting sacked or throwing up a nonsense throw in the middle of the end zone. Could easily get picked, but he knew where he was going. He knew where his guys were because he's keeping his eye downfield. Now, this just came up when I was watching it too with Hunter Henry kind of waving him off. I wonder if he could have just fell and laid in the white on the ground. Like, have you've seen those guys who they'll just kind of like on kick returns, one guy will just lay down and try and blend into the ground and into the color of the end zone. Like if like Titans is spelled out in blue and you're in a blue jersey, one guy hides. Yeah, they literally just hide and they lay down on the ground and then they come out and return the kick that way. I wonder if Hunter Henry went through their mind that, hey, I'm out of bounds, just lay in the white. I'm in a white jersey. Drake's not even going to confuse me. Because even if he's standing there going like, don't throw to me, he could confuse that with, hey, I'm open, throw to me, waving him off. So it's almost like you just kind of got to stand there and be like, hey, I'm not in the play anymore. But Drake knew. Good on him. Yeah, exactly. We should. And good on Henry too for basically just standing there and knowing, hey, I'm out of bounds. This is going to get called back. All right, that's the good stuff for May. We do have a couple lowlights as well. We got to be fair here and talk about some things that May didn't do great on Sunday as well. So, Taylor, let's run through.
And we're not trying to come after the kid here. These are just things where you need to understand the things that he needs to improve on so you can see if he's making growth or if he's staying in the same place or if he's regressing. I didn't really see a whole lot of regression here. These were just a lot of plays where I'm thinking this is a young quarterback in his third start, right? Third full game as a starter. Third full game as a starter. So some of this is going to happen. He needs to learn what he can and can't get away with, but we'll dive into the reasons for all of these turnovers as we go. So this play, the Patriots, this is going to be a play that Drake Maye is going to read the left side of the field. You're going to get another kind of high-low concept with pretty much a crossing route from Demario Douglas. Then defensively, Titans once again in a too-high shell, but they're actually running cover one buzz with man coverage to the backside. And the one you're going to want to focus on really here is Amani Hooker, that buzz safety. Amani Hooker picked Drake Maye off twice in this game. This first one was a really great play from the veteran, showing why he is a part of one of the best defenses in the NFL. And up front, we have a very similar situation the last time where you have a mug linebacker who's actually dropping into coverage. A second-level linebacker is actually going to blitz as part of a line game. But here, remember when we talked about in the preview how they had to watch out for those twists between Ard and Key? Yep. Jeffrey Simmons.
We did.
Part of the reason that you're going to get pressure here is because it is a little bit different from our breakdown because here Simmons is further on the inside. It's a bit of a longer loop here, but the line game is going to work and both these guys are going to end up getting some pressure on the quarterback. But first, Drake Maye gets to the top of his drop. You can see from the way that he kind of plants his foot like this, like, so one, bam. He's trying to get this ball out, I think, with anticipation to Demario Douglas. But Amani Hooker is about to drive on this throw. I think it's kind of smart for Drake not to make this and try to go to his backside dig. In theory, the difficult part is pressure forces him to move off of his spot, right? So one, you're going to get Arden Key as the initial penetrator creating pressure. That's going to force Drake Maye to slide to his left. And then Jeffrey Simmons is actually going to loop around and really force Drake Maye to kind of speed up his clock a little bit. And not only that, but Amani Hooker does a great job reading the quarterback and falling off Demario Douglas, knowing that he's about to run into another zone defender. Hooker reads the quarterback. Drake Maye thinks that he's got this window to Jalen Polk. And, I mean, part of it is that he ends up getting hit when he lets the ball go, but still don't want to throw into this kind of window, ends up letting it go. Hooker is right underneath it, picks it off. Even if it was – and you can tell that the throw had something to – I'm sorry, the hit had something to do with it.
Right.
Because even Jalen Polk had to kind of go backwards because it would have been on his back shoulder. I believe I have the end zone view of this as well. I don't. That's okay. So pretty much just one of those things where you're saying, hey, you know, when you're about to get hit, make sure you're still able to see the full field. Not a big thing that I'm worried about. Honestly, when I saw it, I was like, you don't really see that from Drake Maye very often, but rookie mistake. As long as he doesn't, exactly. If he doesn't repeat these mistakes, one off, done, whatever. It happens. Now, the strip sack. This is one where I understand where he was coming from because this was after he had already had that last second pitch to Ramondre Stevenson while he was getting sacked, a play you saw him make like multiple times back when he was at UNC. But when you saw that at UNC, you also saw moments where he would try to make plays like that, and it would bite him in the butt. And that's why when it came into him in the NFL, I was saying, there's going to be learning moments. He's got to learn what he can't do, but that's just part of the NFL experience. He's 22. He'll figure it out. Not an egregious mistake, but one we got to break down anyway. So the Patriots are going to run an out and up this time against an off coverage defender. Then you're going to get a hook here from Hunter Henry. This side of the field honestly doesn't matter, but you are going to get a scan and release from Jermichael Hasty. And once again, you're going to get a 2-high shell with the Titans in cover 3. They're going to drop and have a buzz defender from the safety to try to take away the middle of the field. Now, Drake Maye is going to pump, but the defender doesn't bite on it at all, right? So he's in his back pedal. He's not going down like this is really an out route. He continues to get depth. Unfortunately, Badarian Lowe loses around the edge, and this is where pressure is going to come into play. Drake is going to try to drift away and see if he can make something out of this, but he's going to try to throw the ball on Arden Key, really heads-up play to hit it out of his hands. Fumble. I know people got on Jermichael Hasty for not recovering this, but I really don't know.
It's just a bad bounce. I watched it over a few times, and people get pissed when it's like you try and scoop the ball up and do something else with it instead of just jumping on it. He tried to jump on the ball. It just took an awkward bounce through his arms.
Exactly. You treat the ball like a grenade. You try to land on it because if you, like you said, if you do, it's probably going to wiggle out. Just a bad bounce of the ball, and unfortunately, a turnover for the Patriots. Learning moment for Drake Maye. When you kind of are able to pat the ball and you're in the pocket for 2 seconds, you have to anticipate that someone's probably coming around the corner. Yeah. And especially if you feel them bearing down, be very careful. I think in the other play, he was being dragged down by his waist, and that kind of I'm back.
It was you. Okay. I don't know.
What just happened there? My bad.
That's okay. I couldn't tell if it was me or you. I was just looking at a bunch of scrolling wheels, and I don't know if it was both of us, but you're back. I'm back.
Yeah, so. I'm back. I missed y'all. That was
carry on.
Too long. But what were we talking about? Yeah, learning moment for Drake Maye.
Yep.
Let's move on. This was the most egregious mistake, I think. And it was one of the only ones where I have no idea why he did this. This one's super straightforward. It's just a go route from Kendrick Bourne down the sideline. Now, the way that this ends up when Drake Maye's trying to throw it, you'd expect him to throw a back shoulder ball here, right? Because the corner's sitting right on top of it. For some reason, he throws this inside. And we saw this from Jacoby Brissett. I think it was against the 49ers. So that just gives the cornerback a perfect opportunity to pick this off. This was early on the game-winning drive, or it might have been right before, but this could have been the turnover that put the knife in the Patriots. Not going to go too deep into this one because, it's straightforward. For some reason, he throws inside against an inside leverage defender. Turnover-worthy play. I think that was by far his most egregious mistake of the entire game. Now, I was trying to choose the last play. The interception, I feel like, at the end of the game was pretty straightforward. Needed to put more air on it. I don't really care about the coverage. Like some people are saying it was quarters. Some people are saying it was cover 3. I'm almost 90% sure it was cover 3. And the safety just didn't have the leverage because of where his hips were turned if Drake Maye had put air on that ball to really defend it. So that one I didn't think was very interesting. This one kind of was, and I haven't seen people talk about it very much. But this is one of those instances where Drake Maye could be better in the pocket. Okay. So he's going to do a little too much, and I think it ends up getting him into trouble, and it's kind of him drifting into pressure. So this is one of the rare times you got straight quarters from the Titans against a 3-by-1 formation. So everybody's got zone eyes on the quarterback here. And the Patriots are going to run a similar concept to what we saw earlier. A lot of curls here. Again, I think it's because they're facing so much off coverage, but Drake Maye is actually going to try to throw this seam route to Demario Douglas. And it's actually, I didn't like the throw at the time, but I can kind of understand why he did it. And we're going to see why. So Drake takes the snap, gets to the top of his drop, and look how many times he steps up in the pocket. Now, with Tom Brady, you would see like the one hitch when you needed to, but really he's not moving. Like he'll literally stand still as long as his feet are set and he's ready to throw. But Drake, 1 hitch, 2 hitch, 3 hitch into kind of pressure. And that last hitch gets him into trouble. And you can see he kind of panics. And there's this weird hop right there where where you're like, I don't know what this is. And that hop feels a little panicky. And then he tries to throw while he's kind of jumping in the air. DeMario's actually open because if you put air on this, the safety's kind of got his hips turned to him and kind of angled downhill. So he doesn't have a good chance of making a play on this ball. But then you got the pressure that Drake Maye invited himself. Then there's kind of a jump throw downfield. Now the ball goes 50 yards, which is pretty insane.
What the way he threw that ball, I expected it to go short of Douglas, not long.
Exactly.
And that's crazy.
I got to charge my laptop.
That's okay.
I'm almost at the end, y'all. We're almost done. All right, let me throw that in so I don't disappear again. But
hey.
I mean, it's crazy that this goes as far as it does. But once again, I think the reason it happens is because he just does too much. Like at this point, you can just stay put, set your feet and deliver the throw. But then you get the extra hitch, the hop, and then basically a jump pass. And it's nowhere near DeMario Douglas.
Right.
So, I mean, somebody's saying it's like Josh Allen. Oh, yeah, the freakish ability. I don't think that Drake Maye, and I said this during the draft, I don't think he makes the kind of egregious mistakes that Josh Allen did, especially when he was in college and when he was a young player. Like, I don't think there's that evil Drake Maye. I really think it's just like he needs to see more. It's not like he's looking at a linebacker and throwing to that linebacker like you'd see at times with the Josh Allen. But like we said, you don't want to see him throwing to the wrong leverage. That's pretty bad. One common theme that we talk about every week is sometimes just knowing when to get the ball out of your hands and not take a hit. I think that's another area where, like, as the season goes on and as his career goes on, he'll understand, okay, live to fight another day, because I think that was third down. So instead of being able to punt and giving your defense a better chance, you get stripped and put them in a really bad spot where the Titans can pretty easily score. But for the most part, like, we're not really talking about egregiously errant throws when it comes to underneath passes, which I think is a big thing we kept getting on him about. But really, it's just understand what you can and can't do. Don't try to throw when you got a rusher bearing down on you and you don't know where his hands are. Like, sometimes you just got to eat the play. Other times where sometimes you just need to understand that you don't have to panic necessarily. I think he'll be fine. This was a tough game. He dropped back over 50 times. He knew that he had to be the one to make a play. He'll figure it out. Overall, very impressive stuff from the rookie. Just like any rookie in the NFL, a lot of room to grow.
Definitely room to grow. And I like that you mentioned the part about like he's not spraying throws underneath. And there was a point in time on Sunday, Maye was 20 of 23 passing, and they were taking away that deep half of the field. And he was taking what they gave him, dump it off, get some yards, and kind of move the chains. And again, it's not perfect, right? Three turnovers, 2 interceptions, the one that ends it, and the strip sack, but running for 95 yards on 8 carries, being able to move the football like that. He's their best player on offense at 22. You're going to have to live and die with the mistakes right now because it is only his third start. He is only 22. He doesn't have the experience. He's learning on the job. And right now, I think pretty much anyone would say he's ahead of schedule compared to what we expected from him as the Patriots quarterback. So again, they fall to 2-7 to Tennessee, but some good to take away from Drake Maye. The other stuff we talked about, the coaching, the run offense, the run defense, it needs improvement, but you have cornerstones in Maye and Gonzalez on both sides of the ball. So we'll see if they we'll see if they can keep building on this 2-7 season as they move forward to take on the Chicago Bears next Sunday in Chicago. So we will be back tomorrow here on Patriots Day. We'll do a mailbag episode. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon at some point. We'll have an opponent preview on the Chicago Bears, and then we'll move right along in the season. Again, Patriots 2-7 heading into week 10. So that'll do it for us here on Patriots Daily. Thank you, Taylor, for breaking down the film and taking us all through it. We appreciate you. We appreciate the work as always. Follow Taylor on Twitter at TKyles39 for all of his film work and all of his Patriots knowledge. I guess if you want to, you can follow me at Mike Kadlick as well for my nonsense on the fact that I think Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles made the right decision last night. But that's neither here nor there. Now that you have your bearings, Taylor, you can.
Could have ended on a high note.
I was going to say you can chirp me now that I know you were pissed about it. But regardless,
also go vote. Go
vote. Definitely go vote. We have a fun night ahead of us, Taylor. We definitely do that.
Oh yeah,
that'll be an interesting one here. But we're done. So again, thanks for watching. We'll be back soon. We appreciate you for joining us. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everyone.